Yeah, Chronic.
Yeah, you got Chronic. All right, man. All right, cool. Y'all ready to rock?
Yes, sir.
Oh, get it.
What's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all tuning in Apartment 5B, hosted by your man, Kel. I got my squad with me today, as always. Porsche, ladies first. What's going on, miss?
Not a whole lot. How are you?
Hey, you know, just dealing with the street life hoopla. JP, back in the what's going on, fam?
Nothing much, just chilling.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Nick, what's good, brother?
Ready to get it on.
All right.
Got the lace popping.
My man, yes, out of NO. What's good, baby?
What's happening, Kel? Let's get with.
All right, you know me. Let's get
I already
right.
got a screen grab. I just saw the face you made. So, yeah, we got to get that screen grab.
Now,
That
Porsche. All right, so this week's topic, we're talking about solo albums that ain't really solo albums and why did solo albums stop being solo albums. And this came from like 3 topics off the timeline. I posted something on Twitter earlier this week of a show we did about MCs that are dope to give you a dope 16 but can't give you a whole album. One person respond with Ray. Now, you know you can't say Ray's name without Porsche coming out with guns blazing. You got Cuban links. How you gonna say Ray can't hold down the whole album? He got Cuban links, and he was like, "Yo, that's half Ghost." And truth be told, I saw an interview. I forgot where RZA said something similar to that too. That like, you know, that's really a combination album. And then somebody told me Ghost said something like Ghost had a line like the purple tape was mine. I don't know. I never heard it. Somebody just said that. So starting with that, Porsche is. Yep. This 5 mic classic, tape only built for Cuban links. Is this a Raekwon solo album? What do you think and why?
I do think it's a Raekwon solo album, and I say that because it's been like Ray claims it as such, and it's been released as such, and it's been kind of always been that way. I think at some point, I think fans just started, and Ghost fans really started saying, wait a minute, Ghost is on this. He's on all the tracks. Ray isn't even on one of them, which, sure, that's valid, but I still think it still was released that way. It was intended that way, all of that kind of stuff. So to me, yes, it's a Ray solo joint. Yeah, it's a Ray solo joint with Ghost as a feature.
All right, no doubt. JP, what you say about that?
I kind of agree with Porsche because the way it was released, I've always looked at it as a Raekwon solo album co-starring Ghost. He's the co-star, but Ray is the actual star. I mean, even the album cover, Ray is in the front and Ghost is, you know, he's kind of in the back, you know, with his arm around him. So I've always seen it as a, you know, heavy featured Raekwon album featuring Ghost.
All right, no doubt. What about you, Nick?
It's a solo album in name only. like for real, because outside of the Ghost being on he got his own solo track. Let's start there, right?
Right.
He's on every other. Raekwon only has 3 solo songs on the album, right? So outside of the Ghost features, you got like 8 other songs with other members of the Wu-Tang.
All right, so in your eyes, it's not.
It's a duo album. You know, you had like Smith and Wesson, you had Mobb Deep, you had Ray and Ghost.
Okay. And it's funny you say that because when we did a show about the dopest duos in hip hop, a lot of people brought up Ray and Ghost.
Yeah, it's enough material to do that. Because you got Only Built for Cuban Links and Iron Man was the same way.
Right.
Because on Iron Man, you had Ghost. It was a posse cut that Ghost wasn't even on.
Right. All right.
Like Assassination Day, no Ghostface.
Right. All right. Yes. What you think?
It's a duo album. Ghost and Raekwon are the EPMD of Wu-Tang.
Okay.
That's how I always viewed them. Like they Eric and Parrish with members of the Wu-Tang. So yeah, it could be marketed however they wanted. They could say it was a Raekwon, but they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, and it's a joint album, straight up. There's no getting around it. And just like Nick mentioned about Iron Man is Ghostface, Raekwon, and Cappadonna.
Exactly.
It's a trio. That's a trio album. That's not even a solo, in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I'm calling them.
And it's funny because I'm stuck in the middle with both of them because I understand both sides. And like P and Porsche was saying how it was marketed, I always looked at it as a Ray solo album. You know what I mean? It wasn't until I can't remember if I was listening to an interview or I read the interview with RZA and he said it. And that was the first time it had ever struck me like, yo, that's a good point. You know what I mean? And for RZA to be saying, truth be told, that ain't no Ray solo album. You know what I mean? That's both of them together. It's what kind of sparked it for me. But here's the thing. So with Iron Man, y'all would say the same thing. Like y'all feel
well, like back to the Cuban Links, it even say on the cover, co-starring Ghostface.
Well, co-starring because
co-starring
because it's supposed to be a cinematic album. That's the whole thing.
He's just as important though. It's like having
it's like a supporting actor. It's like a supporting role.
Well, supporting actor is important.
Right, but supporting is still supporting. It's still support.
They're supporting.
It's still support.
Okay, but look, but before we even go any further, if we giving Ray a pass for this, we can't criticize no other albums.
That's not true.
I mean,
because
it is true. Because the Game album was marketed as a solo album, right?
Well, we gonna get the Game. We gonna get the Game.
Well, here's the thing: the marketing thing. I don't like relying heavily on marketing because you could market anything. You could market friggin' Only Built for Cuban Links as a Tupac joint if you wanted, really, if you pump enough money into it.
I'm just saying what y'all saying.
No, I know. But what I'm trying to say is Ray recognizes it as a solo. RZA, I've never heard RZA call it, well, truth be told, it's not what Kill quoted. I've never heard that. I read a ton of articles today where it was interviews that Ray's done, that Ghost has done, and it's always been that's Ray's solo joint everywhere. Like it's been.
They can say that. Like Speaker Box Love Below is a double album, but it's two solo albums put together.
And that's a good point. That's a good point of marketing. And I always give whoever was A&R in that album the grade. Y'all got the gold star for Marcus on that because they marketed that album as an Outkast.
Outkast, exactly.
Could have marketed it as two solo albums. I don't think it would have done
as the numbers it did. It wouldn't have.
So I told good point on that. Let me ask y'all this. Do you think the RZA saw that Ray and Ghost? Because another thing that made me think of this topic was MCs who can't hold down or hold out. Like for it to be like, Meth, you get your album. Old Dirty, you got yours. Genius, you got yours. Even though Dex album came later, do you think RZA saw it like, these two really don't have it? Maybe just right now, because I know Ghost is going on to do great things. But do you think maybe just at that moment he was like, maybe y'all two need to come together? Like y'all, like I don't think Ray, you got like, do y'all think that or Porsche? Nah, Nick, what you think?
There was an article.
He raised his hand.
Yes, because there's an article where Raekwon flat out says he was afraid to do a solo album.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's all you need to know. That's why he had the co-pilot.
Well, here's the thing. So also in that I read somewhere, I can't remember the source because I read so many articles. So I unfortunately can't quote it, but the whole thing is that with 36 Chambers, everyone remembers that Ghost was face covered. He was really in the back. He wasn't really in the limelight that way, and there was a big reveal, and it was like this big thing surrounding like, what does Ghost look like, who is that guy? Like there was a lot of that. I don't know if you guys remember.
I do.
With Cuban Links, the whole thing behind it, and I don't know for the life of me where I read this, maybe it was in the Tao, I don't know, but anyways, the whole thing of that was like the unveiling of Ghost in his abilities to do that. And I do think that Ghost was scared only because he was so in the back on the cover. He didn't have a face, like all of that kind of stuff. So it kind of makes sense to me.
No. Raekwon said he was scared, not Ghostface. Ray said he was scared to do a solo album.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Raekwon, yeah.
Right, so that's why I was saying, like, was RZA maybe just kind of like on some BBD shit? Like, them niggas was like, what the fuck are y'all gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, Ralph going solo, Bobby solo, John. So, like, put y'all
cats on. Yeah. Even on the Wu album, Ghost wasn't a standout. It was Method Man, Old Dirty, Jizza, and Inspector Deck. Right. Those were the ones that stood out on 36 Chambers.
All right, so for y'all, so what do y'all think about Iron Man? Porsche, this is a solo album?
Yes, it is. It's a solo joint.
All right. To me. JP, what about you?
I still view it as a solo joint.
Yeah. All right. And I know Nick and Jens, I already know y'all gonna go with the Capadonna and everybody like that. It's funny because nigga, the marketing point is bugged because you're right. It is about how you market it. You know what I mean? And that Outkast is the perfect example. But let me ask y'all this: when and JP, you're my age, and so is Jens. So portion, you know, I know y'all know about 80s, but like I was just looking at 80s hip hop. They didn't really have no features. You know what I mean? So I was raised at a time when a solo album meant that just you, like, you know, Run DMC's. I don't think Run DMC has ever had a feature. You know what I mean? On any, well, I'll say this. They
the 80s albums
on Up to Raising Hell. I mean, maybe even Tougher Than Leather. I think they did a song with the Afros, but that was yeah, you know. So for Run DMC, it was always them. Fat Boys, they only had one dope album, a lot of other albums. Houdini never had no features. Like none of those dudes had features, and I'm like, why not? Because at that time, hip hop was so close. You know what I mean? Like LL didn't have no features until Mama Said Knock You Out, and he had the posse cut with his boys from Queens or whatever like that. So for me, I'm thinking, well, let me ask y'all, what do you like, JP? Why do you think there weren't any features at that time when everybody was so close? Like now it's a million people. Back then, all these people were on the same tours. They was in Crush Groove. They all got managed by Russell. If you wasn't, I think the Fat Boys were managed by Curtis Blow, but that was still with Russell. For people who don't know, Run's original name was the son of Curtis Blow, because he was the DJ for Curtis Blow. So Russell and Curtis was cool. So JP, why do you think there weren't any features on albums back in those days?
You know, I never really put too much thought into it, but I think back then every people that you named, they had a distinct sound, and every sound was their sound. So you didn't bring anybody else in as a part of that. That's what I'm thinking. Like I never thought about LL not having a feature, but LL had his sound. Run DMC had their sound. The Fat Boys had their sound. You know what I'm saying? Public Enemy had their sound. Everybody was self-contained. And I think nobody was really thinking about getting with anybody else. They worried about their particular project. I think it was a lot of competition too.
Right.
I would think.
Right. What you think, Nick?
I think album lengths played a part too, because you know, like Paid in Full, how many songs was on that? Like 8 maybe, like actual songs.
Mm-hmm.
You take away the whack ass DJ's cuts. So like,
right.
Yeah, so with like shorter album lengths, I feel like the solo MC wanted to display all of their talents.
Right.
Without, I think what Big Daddy Kane had Biz on his album. Outside of that, he had Scoob and Scrap.
But
yeah,
right.
But yeah, like for the most part, yeah,
everybody was self-contained.
Yeah.
All right, what you think, Porsche?
I mean, I think JP gave a pretty good reasoning as to why. I agree with that personally, because if you listen to each kind of duo or artist at the time, nobody could really mesh well anyways. Like, who are you going to have on an LL joint with that same energy, with that same vision or whatever, you know, theme and that kind of thing? Like, I personally can't even match them up now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I kind of have to agree with JP on how he explained it.
All right. What about you, Jens?
Now, I think JP made a real good point as far as the competition thing.
Okay.
Nobody was going to allow somebody else on any track with them, any album with them.
Yeah.
And then you got to remember too, at that time, I mean, now hip hop is so saturated with MCs. Everybody got a crew now. Everybody got people they're trying to bring up through the ranks. Mm-hmm. So that's why you got all these feature-heavy albums, which I'd rather take it back to a time where you don't have all the features.
All right.
So.
Yeah, like a track or two with features.
All right.
Yeah.
And see, for me, I'm wondering, I see what JP is saying, and I'm wondering too if it just wasn't an option back then. Like nobody thought about it. Like, you know, I always felt like, huh?
I said, I think that's probably true also.
Yeah, like
you want to be better. Like LL want to be better than Run. I want you my album. I want to be better.
Not even with the competition, but like just, I tell my kids all the time, like, yo, there was a time in this country divorce was not an option. You just got married.
Right.
So you was just miserable forever, you know, and then the 80s came and it was like, oh shit, we can get divorced. And then divorce, same thing. JP, in our day, there was no suicide. I don't care who's trying to bully you. You never, it was no, is he You run or you fight. Now these kids are like, run, fight, or kill myself. Like, it became an option. How it became an option, I don't know. But I'm just, and I was even trying to do research. I still got to try and figure out, like, what was the first, like, real featured joint? Like, who had the idea? Like, kind of like in JP, what you were saying, it makes great sense that everybody was self-contained. And I always take it back to, like, Nas and Illmatic. It was like, after Illmatic, everybody was like, oh, shit, you mean I could go out and get that producer and I could go get with them, like you said, before that, you produced for your crew, and that was it. You know what I mean? But even with the self-contained, I'm like, why didn't Kane and G-Rap ever get a joint? You know what I mean? Was it the competition? Because they're in the same crew.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Was it, now I know just, and even in those days, I know you're in the same crew, but you may not necessarily be friends. Like, I know Big and Kane were friends.
Right.
So maybe Kane didn't know G-Rap. Maybe he didn't want to bring him on the album. But I'm just looking at joints like that, like, Kane's second album, The Long Live the Kane, he had Nice and Smooth. That was actually the first time I heard of Nice and Smooth on Pimp It Ain't Easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if KRS ever had a guest. I don't think Rakim ever had features. Like, LL, even Nas with Illmatic, and then I was looking at like in the beginning of the 90s, like with Daily Operation, that's when we started to get posse cuts. But I think you said it, that's when you was trying to put your boys on.
Right. Right.
When you got your posse cut putting your boys on. Right. I'm the Man, where you introducing them to J. Rue the Damager and Little Dat. On Speak Your Clout, or same thing with L's joint. He had all these cats from Queens on it. So you were trying to do that, but then I'm looking at now you've got albums like, for instance, I'm looking at Game's Jesus Piece. Yeah. This came out in 2012. 13 songs, 11 of them have features.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about, I didn't even count the people singing your hook. I don't even really care about that feature. I'm talking about out of the 11 songs, out of 13 songs, only 2 of them are you. Do y'all think that's a solo album? JP, is that a solo album?
I mean, it is, but because he is the main artist. So, I mean, technically it's not because he has so many other people, but it is because his album. Like, he's just having more people on it. Like, but I still look at it as Game's album. It's just feature heavy. Feature heavy.
All right. What about you, Nick?
Oh, you know what? If the Ray joint is a solo album, the Game is a solo album. Ray had 3 solo songs, so if that's the solo album, that Jesus Piece is a solo.
No. But staying with you believe. So you're basically saying it's not because of the.
Yeah, like if you only got 2 solo songs on your album, how is that a solo album?
Right. So it's almost like a criteria. So maybe that's a good thing. What would you?
Like if 70% of the album isn't you, then to
me, so it's a compilation. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like a compilation. There we go.
Now, and I feel you on that because I'm looking at it like going back to that show of can you really hold down a whole album? Like, that's the thing. It's such a huge. Well, I'm sorry, Porsche. What do you think about that Game joint? Do you think that's a solo?
Yeah, it's definitely a solo joint. I mean, I'm going to take it back to Only Built for Cuban Links. Like, Ray's been also quoted as saying that he wanted to put his fam on there. Ghost is my fam. I wanted to put him on the joint. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having someone featured. That's why they call it featured and not with or in conjunction with. You know what I mean? Like the wording, the verbiage is not by accident. So for me, yeah, all of these are. Could it be feature heavy? Sure, you can ding it for being feature heavy, but it's a solo joint, and everyone accepts it as such. Like, for example, if you ask Capadonna, oh, so Iron Man's your joint too? He's gonna be like, no, that's a Ghost joint. He's not gonna claim that as his own or even half of his own. He'll be like, yeah, I was featured on it.
Well,
that's how I go.
Do you believe that? Like, because I always feel like for the press, you have to say something. Like, when Kobe was playing, they'd be like, oh, you're better than Mike. He'd be like, oh, no, I'm not better than Mike. I'm like, ask that nigga that when the camera's off.
I do think
like, I'm better
than I think the Wu-Tang was a little different for me, the way I understand it, since it came to be. So there may be a bad example because RZA liked pairing them up and they're complementary, and then they had like Meth versus Chef, and they had all of these like little things within the clan because there were so many of them. So maybe they're not the best example to use for this, but yeah, I mean, going back to Game, do I think it's a solo joint? Of course I do. Is it feature heavy? Sure it is, but there's quite a few feature heavy albums.
Yes.
All right, what about you, Jens?
The Game's that's a solo album, feature heavy, and one of the main reasons is all of the features aren't pictured on the album cover. If every feature was on the if every featured artist was on the album cover, I would say that it's a compilation / posse album.
All right, so your criteria is everybody got to be on the cover. We got to have a Midnight Midnight Marauders got everybody on the cover. That is your criteria for it.
It's a solo album. It's just It's one of those albums, like I said before. I don't like all of that feature stuff. If you're gonna be the premier artist for an album, then you need to be on the whole album. Yeah. And it needs to be your album. It don't need to be all them extra people on there, 5, 6, 7 dudes. Unless you like Wu-Tang with 500 members, then you got to find a way to fit everybody on that album.
But the crazy thing is that we don't bring this up with GZA. I've never. This is really no. You know what I mean? You nobody questions GZA because it was 80% him.
GZA, exactly.
And I guess it comes back to like the criteria. To me, I'm now looking at these albums. I mean, when Game came out, I'm like, that shit ain't no solo album because I'm like, bro, I grew up in an era where you had to write 48 bars. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that, even looking at my top 10 list the other day, I'm like, a lot of the MCs who make my top 10 list fit that criteria. Like writing 16 bars is not that hard. To me, it's why we always say Meth is a great dude to give you a 16, but he really can't give you the whole album. It's the ding I'm always going to put on Lauryn Hill. Everybody wants to say she's the dopest female MC. I haven't heard her do a 48 bar song.
I have a question So I'm going to flip it. So with the Capone and Noriega War Report, Capone wasn't very much on that album. It's still a Capone and Noriega joint. Is it a Noriega solo?
He was on the good chunk of that though. Capone was on more than half of that album.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because Capone even says he wasn't on there as much as he should have been.
Yeah, I mean, not as much as he should have been because he was locked up, but he's on more than half of that album.
Okay, and then another thing, Lil Kim's hardcore album, Lil C's did a whole track. She wasn't even there, so all of a sudden that's a C's joint?
Well, no, but see, there's a difference.
It's a B.I.G. album.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, yes. Theoretically, yes, I will agree with that.
As far as that one track, I don't mind. It's kind of like I said, I grew up in an era where there were no features. Like that was just unheard of. It was like to be an MC, you had to be able to write 3 dope verses. You know what I mean? Now, even with the people I love, in Benny's album, I'm seeing 2 verses. Niggas ain't even writing 3 verses.
Yeah, the songs are shorter now.
Now shrunk down to just 2 verses.
That's due to attention span, though. You get so much music, man, you ain't got time.
Yeah,
it's too much coming out.
So do you think it's an attention span, or do you think these people aren't capable? Because I was thinking about, y'all know me and my black thought can only rap about girls. But the thing that I realized about rapping about a girl through a lot of these MCs is that it's almost like taking a writing class in college where you learn how to your beginning, your body, and the conclusion. Like you could do that with a girl rap. You could start with we met in verse 1, in verse 2, here's the problems, in verse 3, this is how. A lot of MCs I'm realizing can't do that. They can't really give you 3 verses to keep your attention anymore. I mean, I don't know if anybody would be complaining if Benny gave us 3 verses. Like, would anybody really be like, oh shit, I can't concentrate no more because it's 3 whole verses? Like, I'm really wondering, can rappers even still do that? So a lot of these solo artists, it's like, I'm now looking back like, well, are they good solo artists? And again, not Ghost, because Ghost is going on to do albums without us. You know what I mean?
And another thing with the Game, I'll give him a pass because prior to Jesus Piece, he didn't have feature heavy albums. So he proved that he can do solo albums
with Game? Like documentary Game?
Yeah. How many features?
Documentary wasn't feature heavy?
No. Yeah, Tony Yayo. Now, if you're gonna count 50 Cent doing the hooks, I'm talking about like verses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
All right. And I think that's another good point too, because I think by 2012 you have more marketing, so you're trying to market to different coasts. So I'm wondering if MCs are just like, yo, I got to get Little Snoopy on my album to get the down south crowd, and I got to get
absolutely
on my album to do that. So that's a good point. That's a good point with Game about that. Do you hold it against an MC? Like Nick, you made a great point, and I've jumped on it ever since you said it, when you said that MCs who are in a group can't make your top 10. Does anybody else agree with that? Because when Nick said that, that was like a hip hop epiphany for me. Like, yeah, because I'm now putting somebody who's writing a 16 against somebody who's writing a 48.
48.
I don't agree.
Not fair.
I don't agree with that.
Or 32 at the least. You know what I mean?
I don't agree with that. I think because there's a point to writing 16 as opposed to 48, but it's about the quality of the verses that makes me decide whether to put you in my top 10 or my top 5.
Okay.
And like you could make three mediocre verses or one hot verse. Like I'll take the one hot verse.
Okay.
Actually, you know what I'm saying? So,
I see what you're saying, because that's important. Like you said, for your criteria,
for my criteria,
you're looking at that. I think for my criteria, I'm looking at like, are you a bench player or are you a starter? Like, can you play the whole game? You know what I mean? Like Lou Williams, he'll come in and drop 30 coming off the bench, only playing 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good point, that for your criteria, you're just like you're saying, can you get in and get, because I guess I look at like almost like if you're an author and you really can't write a whole novel, you can just write like, I don't know, like an article. Like you're a writer, but you write for ESPN the magazine versus a novelist. And for me, it would be unfair to try to put a Scoop Jackson who writes an 8-page article for Slam in the same category as a Dean Koontz who writes an 800-page book almost. You know what I mean? So, but that's me. Nick, what about Nick? We know how you feel. Porsche, what about you?
Well, hold on. One before you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Another screen grab. I saw that.
No.
Like, because if you do the 80s alone, you got Rakim, LL Cool J, KRS, Coogee Rap, Big Daddy Kane, Slick Rick. That's like 6 guys right there. Like they got classic. Then if you go into the 90s, you got like Nas and Jay and Biggie, all of these cats. It's just hard for me to find the MC and a group dope enough to top guys like that.
Right. I know what you're saying, because for years, until you said that, I always had 3,000 in my top 10.
But then that's my dude. But
right. But then after you said that, I was like, damn, you right. Like, is that fair to, like I said, put somebody who can write a dope article for Slam Magazine? Like, I can't, like, do I really want to put somebody who wrote an article for this up somebody who wrote a whole book? Like, I feel like it's almost unfair.
But even think about it. The reason why you're even thinking about it and bringing it up is because there's something with 3 stacks that makes you want to put, like, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because like somebody, I saw a tweet that you had, they tried to throw Pharoah Monch in there, and I'm like, but Pharoah has a solo body of work.
I don't think
I was just gonna say, I think Andre's a bad example because he doesn't have a body of work that you can rely on or fall back on.
Well, I took what Nick was saying to be people who are in a group and never did a solo album.
Well, this is the thing. So there are people. So this is what I was going to say is I can't agree with the way I guess Nick said it, only because some people from groups have enough of a body of work, solo stuff that, and Ray's one of them, and Ghost is one of them, that you can categorize them on your top 10 apart from what they did with Wu. Actually, they have more solo stuff than they do Wu-Tang stuff. So, I mean, whichever way you want to look at it.
But how much quality solo stuff?
Well, this is the thing. And then it becomes your own, like, sifting through and seeing like, okay, well, Ray has like 15 albums, but only 2 of them are dope. That's on you and your own criteria. But it doesn't negate the fact that Ray can be considered. I mean, he has enough stuff. So for me, I can't agree there because I think that sometimes people in groups can have enough solo stuff or enough work that you can consider them as a solo artist as well.
But I mean, I think that's the key. If they've gone on, like somebody said, Pasta News. Pasta's never done no solo.
Yeah.
Right.
Different than a Sean P, who is in Helter Skelter but has gone on.
Right. So
To
in
a successful
that case,
solo career. Yeah.
Exactly. So in that case, I personally wouldn't consider such a person on my top 10 or even consider them because they just don't, they're just been part of a group. That's all it is.
See,
And
but,
then
no,
you
but
have
you can't like say Tretch.
I
Tretch
was
is,
about to say that.
you know, you was okay.
I was
He
about to
fought
bring him
the
up.
entire time. He's in a lot of people's top 10. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. You know, I mean, he you know, he wrote Vinny stuff. So I mean, you can say it was the same thing, but you know what I'm saying. But you understand what I'm trying to say?
No.
Right?
I totally agree with you. And I mean, I think that's the thing that, like, it was just something that when Nick said that, because prior to that, like I said, 3,000 probably came in at number 7 for me. You know what I mean? Like, but I think it was just like you said, a dude like Tretch, and we'll talk about this afterwards because the show we're doing next week, I think, will be even doper to this idea that I got. But yeah, I mean, I can't, like, it's certain people that if you tell me Tretch is in your top 10, dog, I understand. There was a time and point when Tretch was the dopest.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
It may only been for 1 year, but that nigga for that 1 year,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
was that dude. Like, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted no problems with Tretch. So again, you know me, I'm the hip hop nerd who's just like, I'm like putting all these categories, and I'm like, okay, well, you know how, you know, for me it's longevity too. You know what I mean? Because it's like you last the test of time. Like when we did the show last time, I think Porsche, you said it too. Pharoah made my top 10. You know what I mean? Like I had to reorganize some things. And I'm like, yo, this dude Pharoah has had 3 dope organized computers.
Yep.
And
4 solos.
4 solo albums that
Yep.
are incredible. I'm like, he's been around since 1991 with Fudge Pudge. It's
Exactly.
19, and we're still checking for Pharoah. All of his albums are legit to me.
Yep.
How can this dude not make my top 10?
Exactly.
Like, because longevity means something to me. Now, somebody else, they could be like, I don't care if you just, somebody could say Kid Hood is my favorite MC. You know what I mean? Just from that one verse on Tribe. I disagree, but I'm going to assume that you don't care about longevity because the nigga only had one verse.
One verse.
Or like Street Life off the strength of T2. You know?
But at least Kid Hood verse was, that was a game changer.
Everybody else
Another gift.
with that street life, man. Yo, JP, man, I was on Twitter this week. This dude told me that Street Life was the GOAT.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know who Street Life is. Then niggas started questioning my hip hop. They tried to pull my car, like, yo, how you a hip hop connoisseur in your bio?
No Street Life.
Right.
My nigga, like, who is he?
You know they were his family. It was his cousins.
Yeah, that had to be his cousin. That was like Katie's burner account or something. Because I'm like, you act like I said J. Rue the Damager. Who's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's J. Rue the Damager? Like, you talking about not an off-brand Woo nigga, but an off-brand rap nigga? Like, come on, nigga. Next you gonna ask me to name the people at Theodore Unit. I can't remember who this was, JP. I'm telling y'all, like, yo, who, like, you really gonna hold that Street Life against me? Yo, when I first came to Morgan, and then I love y'all New York niggas. Y'all know I spent time in Brooklyn. It's like a second home to me. But y'all the most arrogant motherfuckers on the planet. You know what I mean? This dude came to me and was like, so, you think you know hip-hop? What the fuck is Grandmaster Flash address? And I'm like, I'm like, yo, did you really just ask me Grandmaster Flash?
Where he live?
Like, where he live right now? Like,
Oh,
I was
God.
waiting for this dude to be like, what's Cool Herc Social? If you don't know that, like, bro, like, are you really asking me?
Oh, God.
Grandmaster Flash address. I'm sorry, I don't know who Street Life was. I'm like, yo, did he have an album out? Well, no, but. Like,
No,
Yeah, exactly.
right.
but
Album? Like, come on.
album, like, but yo, he had fire verses on. Did he have the best verse? No. Well, what the
What?
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude,
can you at least tell me he had the best verse? Like, but neither here nor there. But I'm sorry, Porsche, you brought up Street Life. What was that?
No, it's all good. Sorry, I just was very funny.
But so the thing is, so yes, what do you think? Or what is your criteria as far as making your top 10? Do you agree with Nick, or are you like, you know?
Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I'll use 3000 as an example. For me, 3000 got enough bars throughout all of his Outkast time
Mhm.
that you know what it is.
Mhm.
There's no question the man's pens one of the top pens. There's no question he's a talented MC. Same thing with Monch. If Monch would have stayed in
Organized Confusion. Mhm.
Right.
and they'd still be recording up to this time, you can't tell me that over his career up to this time, had he still stayed and organized, that he hadn't built up enough rhyme equity, so to speak, to have people say, hey, you know what? I fuck with Monch. Monch got what I like in the MC. So to me, if you're in a group, it doesn't really take away, especially if you're in a long standing group.
Yeah, that's a dope joint. I
agree with that.
I can't agree with that because
but you have to be very special though.
No, I can't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Is because I don't know, Kill's the producer here. I could be really wrong. I'm not into music, but I mean I'm not in music. I'm into music. But anyways, I feel like for an artist to go from a group setting or a duo setting into the studio on his own, recording and putting together a whole project is a different ballpark. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can't just say, oh, Andre's got enough verses to prove that his ability is there. His pen, of course, absolutely. Outkast is one of my favorites. I love Andre 3000, not to take away from any of that. But I personally feel like it's a different ballpark when you go into the studio alone and you don't have Big Boy who's there with you or that kind of thing, that dynamic. Could it be psychological? Sure. Could it be atmospheric? Sure. Could it be a lot of different things? But I just think that if you want to rank Andre as a solo, he needs to have a solo work. Like not, oh, he just did a ton of dope verses, so that's enough material for me. That's just me.
What you got, Nick?
All right. So with that said, back to where we started. Only built for.
I already know where you was going.
Yes. You just said it yourself, breaking down Outkast. So if somebody say Raekwon is a dope solo act, they can't use Only Built for Cuban Links to back that up because
they can use.
He didn't go in there.
Cuban Links 2, and they can use Immobilarity. They can use a bunch of them.
You just said that Andre. You said to go in and craft an album without the help of Big Boy.
But Andre has nothing else. Andre doesn't have anything else to rank it against.
I understand that.
If Ray had only Built for Cuban Links in his whole discography, I may have agreed with you on some level. But he doesn't. He didn't
craft that album. The albums he crafted also, by himself weren't good.
You're not calling out Immobilarity.
That's what I'm saying. The albums he did solo was bad.
That's right. By himself, Immobilarity, that's not the greatest body of work.
The album that he's known for was not a solo effort.
According
to what you just said.
Don't take away from
well, before we jump on Porsche,
to me, Only Built for Cuban Links is a solo joint. So that's not a collab album for me. That's not an Outkast joint for me. That's not Outkast. Outkast is a duo. Outkast has always been a duo. It's always been that way. It's not Andre 3000 starring Big Boy or co-starring this guy. It's Outkast.
Porsche,
I think Porsche is a very much of a kill mood. You're not swaying me, so I don't think we're gonna. I don't think we're swaying Porsche tonight to make her believe.
No. Only Built for Cuban Links is my favorite album of all time.
It can still be your favorite. It came out on my 16th birthday. I always say that's the best birthday gift I ever got. But still, the facts are the facts. He didn't go in and craft that album solo. He had Ghost.
Now here's the thing. But Porsche's saying he had. Now here's the thing. After Immobilarity, I kind of fell off with Ray until Only Built for Cuban Links 2. I knew he had something like The Wild. He had other joints out, but I won't hold you. I really wasn't checking for him. So were those albums good?
No, they weren't.
I mean, I love Raekwon. Do I think Immobilarity is a 5 mic album? Hell no.
No. Not 5 mics, but when I said were those
4 mics?
Albums good?
No, it wasn't 4 mics. It wasn't 4 mics. But
we all know that was trash. But what about The Wild? And I know he had other albums. So were Ray's other albums?
I personally think Ray is fantastic. Off the strength of his solo work, which is also Only Built for Cuban Links. I mean, I consider that a solo album. It's
All right.
accepted as such. Ray
All
calls
right.
it such.
All
Reza
right.
does. I don't know.
We can move on.
Now, back to what you were saying, Porsche. I agree with you. I like Jens's rhyme equity, but I do agree with, from being in the studio with MCs, that it is something about being able to craft a song and everybody can't do it. Organized is a great example. Anybody heard Prince Poe's solo albums?
Mm-hmm.
I heard.
I heard one of them.
I've heard two of them, and they're dope. Like,
They're dope, yeah.
Prince Poe is dope, but there's a reason why people talk about Pharoah more than they do Prince Poe.
Exactly.
Now, when they were on the joint together, I think Pharoah always had like maybe a voice. I think he stood out more, but I don't think anybody ever looked at Poe like, oh, he the slouch of the group. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Not at
Right.
all.
So it's like they were both good, but I think Pharoah was just so I like Jens's your rhyme equity, but I really can't take all the dope Andre verses and try to match that into a song because in my thing, I'm just always about making good songs. You know what I mean? And to me, that's an art. You know what I mean? That's why we don't have a lot of good albums. We got a lot of great spitters out here. You got these dudes who do these battle raps that are just amazing, but they can't make a good song. You know what I mean? It's like when me and Yao were going back and forth about when he called Guru trash. Yeah, you know, and I mean, we went back and forth about this to the point I had to call him on the phone, like, look, like we better than this, man. Like, let's get off the timeline and talk about this behind closed doors. But I'm like, I'd rather take a subpar. I don't even look at Guru as subpar. I look at Guru as a very good MC. I don't think he's no lyrical gymnast, but I would rather take. But Guru has classic songs.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So and the same thing with excuse me. Same thing with CL Smooth. Everybody likes to say, well, Pete made CL and Primo made Guru. And that could be true, but it's like I said, well, did Phil make Mike or did Mike make Phil? I don't know. They just won championships together. Like, I don't care. Like, before Phil went to the Lakers, Kobe and them was getting swept by Utah. Like fucking John Stockton. So who was more important? Kobe or who cares who made who? They made great songs together. Like, I would take that over Jadakiss, who's nasty, but don't got a dope album to his name. But what do y'all think about that? JP, what would you rather do? You want the lyrical MC or somebody who can craft classic songs?
But here's the thing. When people talk about their top five in it, are they really thinking about songs or are they thinking about those verses within those songs?
Verses. They be talking about
They be talking about verses.
Straight up
You know what I'm
verses.
saying?
Yeah.
So like when if you bring up a specific topic like my top five solo artists, you got to be specific, and then that made albums. That's when you could. But when I think of top 5 or top 10, I'm specifically thinking about verses.
Right.
So
That's a dope point. That's a dope point because
it's about the quality of those verses to me. It's always going to be that, and that's subjective to what you're into.
And it's funny that you said because when I always said top 5 that are alive, I used to always laugh at Kiss like, nigga, no, you're not. Like, because in my mind, I'm thinking the all around MC, like,
Right.
You ain't top 5 that are alive, nigga. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's bug that you said that, but that makes sense. What about you, Nick? Would you take a Guru? Because I'm like, to me, Jada doesn't have any classic songs. And then somebody corrected me. I do think We Gonna Make It is a classic song.
Right.
No, what was it? Why? What was it?
I said why is a pos. That's like if we play in space.
Okay,
Like
got
I'm
you.
doing a pos.
And a possible.
But
Okay.
I'll definitely give him We Gonna Make It. But is that a Jada song? Because Styles is on it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Styles is on it. So, but I was like, fuck it, whatever. Y'all got Jada. Y'all got We Gonna Make It. But I'm just like, when you look at a Guru who has classic songs, like this
Classic albums. He got classic albums.
Classic albums.
Yeah.
Right.
No, he wasn't but I will say this, I told y'all, you got a lot of other lyrical dudes who got on Primo beats who didn't make classic songs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to be said about that. Like, I think, especially now, we care so much about individual stats. Like, we're like the NBA now. All we care about is individual stats. We don't care about who won the game or who. We're not turning into Sports Center to see. Like the other night, James Harden had 100 points, but they lost. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
two times, the last 2 games.
Right, you know, and then like was up 8 points with like 8 seconds left and lost to Brooklyn. But we don't care about that on SportsCenter. We're highlighting on he had 50 points. So I don't think nobody really cares about songs anymore or making. But to me, JP, I don't know if you know, I was beefing with Just Blaze back and forth. And I'm like, I don't do no beat battles, nigga. Let's make a song. Like, you get an MC and make a song, and I'm the MC. I don't do beat battles. I ain't got the MP, throw it in the air. I can't play that shit live like Stro Elliott. I'm out making dope-ass songs. You know, but I think like we've gotten away from that. Like niggas be like, oh, A-Rap music, he's crazy because he could do all that shit. And I'm like, that shit ain't impressive to me. That's some nigga in Rucker Parker at Dykeman dribbling all day and can't make the league. You know what I mean? So I was happy when he came out with the Joe Budden album. Now I know a lot of people didn't like, but I liked it.
I liked it too.
The Rage Against the Machine, I was like, oh, this dude has now shown me he got the tricks, but he can also produce an album. He has good songs.
Right.
But what do you think? Are you taking the lyrical whiz that really can't, like, do you think Jadakiss has the ability to make 12 good songs that will interest you? Or is he just, there's nothing wrong with being the white chocolate Jason Williams, who's got all the crazy passes and all the tricks, but that nigga ain't winning you no championship?
I think he does have him and Fabulous. Those are two MCs that I respect.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have the talent to craft classics if they stop thinking about pleasing too many audiences. You know what I mean? They're always trying to like please this coast. They got to have a West Coast song. They got to have a down South song. They got to have a song for the ladies. It's like, bro, just go in, make dope album.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I put them two in the same category as well. It was something about them, and maybe not the same perspective, but it's something about those two where they had the skill, absolutely, but it was something about them that kept holding them back to becoming a Jay-Z. I felt the same way about Nas too, to tell you the truth. Like they didn't have the charisma or something. Like it wasn't as effortless, like to be well-rounded MC. They had the bars, but could they be charismatic or they? I feel like they rhyme the same on a lot of their songs.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I mean by do they have what it takes to make it? Because JP, we saw in last week about how I always just say it was a time in hip hop where they didn't know what to do with spitters. Because I put Cassidy in that same boat.
Right.
That dudes have bars, but they came out at a time in the industry when everything was on the radio. You know what I mean? Because Fab is a lot more known for his features. This nigga may have over 400 features.
Right.
His actual albums,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something that Jadakiss really never got on. Like, it was something about Fab where he could do R&B and hip-hop.
Right.
Cassidy and Kiss couldn't do that. Cassidy couldn't be on a song with Tamia. You know what I mean? Or Kiss.
Right.
Well, you know why, man? The Short Brothers don't get no love, man. They ain't trying to be with us in the video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think it's too, but for me, it's like even with a Jada, I wonder, like, why was a dope song to me? Because it like had a topic. Or when, like JP, you said when you talk about a Jay is going to not just bar you to death, but he's going to bar you with like some wisdom in there too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Jada could keep me interested. Even if we just said, Jada, go in there and make that gutter street shit. I don't know if I just want to be barred up for 14 songs.
Nah, that's what Styles got him at. That's what. Because Styles can do that. Jada can't.
And Styles been more consistent.
Styles can do what? Styles can do
he can hit you with some thought-provoking stuff.
Right.
That's why he was able to collab with like, Mos Def and Kweli, because he can get in that lane too.
Like Styles has been more consistent over the years, put out a lot more projects and things like that. But I still think Jadakiss is better than Styles, in my personal opinion.
Right. I think because it's two different things.
It's two different things.
Who could make a better album? You'll probably say Styles.
Right.
What do you think, Porsche? Do you take like a Guru MC who is good? He's not no lyrical acrobat, but he can make classic songs. Or do you want the Jada? You want the dude who's gonna who got them bars?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm all lyrics. Like I love lyrics. I listen to tracks and it's all lyrics for me. I actually don't even notice or care about the production until the third listen. That's why whenever people are like, hey, have you heard this? What's your opinion? I'm like, yo, you got to give me like 5 more listens because I haven't even gotten to the beats yet. Like I've listened to it 3 times through front to back, beginning to end, just focusing on what they're saying. And for that reason, like I'm somewhere in the middle. Like Yeah.
You know what? I'm always intrigued. Why do you think that is? Like, I'm just intrigued as like how some people hear the lyrics first. Of course, all producers.
Well, because
first.
I personally consider rappers as poets and like literary people, and I love the way the rhyme schemes are. I love the word usage, even when it's cuss words or slang words or things like that. I just love hearing what words out of the language they're taking to fit that particular beat pattern, and how they're like, that's where conversate came from, right? With Big, because he had to fit, he couldn't say converse, it wasn't long enough, so he broke it up. And that's why I listen to lyrics like that, because I want to see like, what are they saying? And a lot of times, like, if you pay attention to what they're saying, it's like, holy heck, you're brilliant. Like, you're brilliant. I don't know. That's all.
That's why y'all know my tagline.
That's why I can't listen to people like, I can't. What?
If they
now
you know my tagline.
I can't bang acapellas in the car.
If I'm in it, if that beat 10 seconds and that beat ain't catching me, skip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like that. I'm definitely not like that. So that's why I can't handle people like this new age, like these new rappers that aren't saying anything. Like Drake, like, what is he saying? He's whining all the time. Like, anyway, sorry, I shouldn't have brought him up. Anyways.
No,
you gotta put $20 in the
show. We can't have a show without Drake. With it,
I'm getting to Cole. Don't worry. I'm getting to Cole. Don't worry. It's coming.
Now it's funny because one of the times that really made me really not really pay attention to Pharoah. I think the album is downstairs. Oh no, it's on Desire. The joint that he got on Desire that's called What It Is. Yeah, What It Is. Like, to me, that beat is horrible. But Pharoah is like, that's one of the first times that I like look. Pharaoh's one of those MCs that I look past the beat. Like, it's so nice. Yeah. Even when I don't even like the beat, I'm still like, yo, this dude is like a monster out here. You know what I mean? Yes. What about you? Lyrical or the songwriter?
Well, I'm gonna use your sports analogies. You can't do it without a team. So you got to have an MC that works well with a producer. They got to have a chemistry. They got to put. That's how you craft a song. Crafting the song is not strictly on the MC. The MC is there strictly to write verses. The rest of the song is either going to work well with those verses or not. So to say that Guru makes great songs, no. Gang Starr made good songs, classic albums. Guru is a part of that, as well as Premier, as we all know. So you can't have, for me, you can't have an MC.
You can't have one without the other.
The album's gonna be astronomical because it just don't work that way. You got to have the team. Mike had to have Phil. Phil had to have Mike.
Right.
To go back to the sports analogy. So for me, it's got to be both. It's got to be the perfect storm, and that's the only way you get classic songs is through a perfect storm.
And it's funny because even with the CL, when CL said, the best who ever did it over a Pete Rock track, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a certain energy about Pete and CL that's dope. Now, of course, Pete has gone on to make bangers for other people, but there's just something special about Pete and CL. Like, it's undeniable. We can talk all day about, we don't know what the fuck CL talking about. We can talk all day about all these things, but they make great songs. They may have the most classic song ever with They Reminisce.
Right.
So I like what you said, Jensh. It's not a Guru song, it's a Gang Starr song. And I do think this goes back to, like I said, with me and Yao, like the individual stats. Because I'm like, if you don't like Guru, I get that. But to call them trash, like, I don't understand calling them trash. And then the nigga went on to try to name 150 MCs better than Guru. Like somebody challenged him to that. I was like, my nigga, I'm like, yo, you really trying to come up with 150 rappers? And he named Fred the Godson.
That was.
And I was like, you talking about a nigga that when he dies, we playing his mixtape versus a nigga when he dies, we playing Mass Appeal and, classics. Like, I got to find this nigga mixtape on SoundCloud. He's better than Guru? Like, come on. All right, last album, Dr. Dre's The Crime. It just says Dr. Dre. It does say featuring the Snoop Dogg, the DLC, and Corrupt. I don't wrote over the shit, but y'all know who's on it. Solo album or compilation? JP, what you got for the Chronic?
This album, I looked at it as a compilation to me because he's a producer. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And you know he doesn't really write his rhymes, so it's just like I've always looked at that as a compilation album to me. Really.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah. It's the ultimate group effort.
Right.
You know, the DOC probably wrote most of his rhymes. I think it's like 2 posse cuts that he's not even on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Snoop is heavily featured on there. It might be 3 cuts that he's not on, but yeah. You know, Dre is mainly a producer first, so definitely the ultimate Death Row starter pack to get the label up. You know what I mean?
Tell me this. I'll save it. What about you, Porsche?
The Chronic to me is a I want to say it's a collabo album, and for the same reason that JP and Nick said, is because Chronic wouldn't be Chronic without Snoop. I really feel, and that's strongly because Dre is a producer first, and yeah, like all that stuff. We know he's not a great rapper. He's not a great rapper. But
he's a great rapper, depending on who's writing for him. Because he has a dope ass voice.
I think the thing about
to be honest, yeah, he does have a good voice, but I think honestly, his beats are what makes him so great, and I think we can't really separate that from Dre. I think he's so like known for his amazing West Coast beats that you can't really take that out of him. So when he does something like the Chronic, you're like, yo man, Dre's dope, but it's not really Dre. It's like Snoop. Like Snoop kind of carries that album. Kind of. I love Chronic. I think it's a classic joint, but is it all, can I call it a solo Dre joint? Okay, yeah, it's accepted as such, but I really think that because Dre isn't the best rapper, then yeah, for that reason, it's a collab to me, that one.
What about you, Yes?
It's a compilation, straight up and down. I mean, In Control Marley Marl. Is that a Marley Marl solo album?
But the difference is Marley didn't rap. You know, I mean, here's the thing, Dre.
I mean, that's how I'm looking at it. Even any. I mean, all right. Let me try to think of somebody else who the
Pete Rock Soul Survivor. Pete Rock Soul Survivor.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's basically what it is. Pete was rapping on there,
right? Because
Pete's rapping, but it's a compilation, in my opinion.
Okay,
it's not a Pete Rock solo album to me. It's a compilation. It's Pete Rock on all the production. Pete Rock rhymes a lot on the album, but it's feature heavy. It's about more about Pete Rock's music, you know, featuring these other MCs. Just like
because didn't you say that Game, the Jesus piece, was a solo album?
There we go. See,
no, it was heavy. Pete Rock, I think on every track,
right?
Soul Survivor.
Soul Survivor is a solo joint.
It's a solo.
It's a solo joint.
I think. Well, all right. I guess my kill now. I'm on my kill. It's a
no. I was just saying that it's like what Nick was saying with Porch. Like it's the flip because when Pete will be like, yeah, I've got 4 solo albums out: Soul Survivor, Soul Survivor 2.
Right, but is Pete an MC first?
I mean, but he's rhyming on it.
Big deal. Game is MC.
Oh, okay. So your thing is about what is your title first?
Say what?
I was saying your thing is about what's your title. What are you looked at?
What you're known as? Yeah. What are you known as?
Yeah, that album is not an example of Pete Rock's lyrical prowess. Those albums are examples of Pete Rock's production. Those albums are examples of Dr. Dre's production. Yeah, okay, yeah, he also rhymes. All right.
I'm the odd man out because I like Dre, man. Fucking Let Me Ride, Dre.
I mean, he knows how to deliver those rhymes.
I mean, like that's what I was gonna say.
That's a talent in itself,
right? Thank you. Just that I was just about to say he's a great actor. Like I'll say that because I write scripts. When I see somebody deliver that shit the way you want, it's like the director's like in awe. That's what Dre is. Because, Let Me Ride don't got Snoop on it. Let Me Ride is my favorite song on the Chronic. And nobody's on that shit.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
And that's another thing I was about to say. Snoop Dogg has fewer verses on the Chronic than Ghostface has on Cuban Links.
Nick is dropping science tonight. I still don't think you're gonna sway Porsche, but
Nope. I'm just saying.
Nick is just coming with facts.
We can't keep paying for the woo.
Here's a question, because this is where this whole Guru was trash argument came from. It came from, I had Guru ranked, I think, as a number 8 MC, and Snoop was a 12 in that March Madness thing. And I said, well, Snoop's only had one classic album in Doggy Style. Somebody tweeted out, well, he really has 2, The Chronic in Doggy Style.
No, I wouldn't say The Chronic would ever be categorized as a Snoop joint.
Yeah,
No
nobody thinks
No
that.
way. Whoever said that is wild.
I had to pause for a second because I ain't gonna quit when I heard nothing but a G thing and I heard Snoop. That's what perked me up. I was like, damn, who that? Or when I heard Deep Cover, you know,
It was Snoop.
Who's
Yeah.
Snoop? But we're stretching. They're stretching it if they try to put Snoop's name as his album.
I mean, he's featured on. I think people don't realize how few verses he had on there. He's like on hooks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like background vocals with like actual verses. He doesn't have as many as people would think.
All right.
Yeah, but that's like Puffy on everything Big did. Like, he's in the background saying stuff. Like, people consider that being on the track. Some people. You don't, but if it's on a hook, you're not going to consider it.
You know what I consider being on the track? Ghostface on Cuban Links. That's what I consider being on the track.
We're back. So I will say this because I just thought of it. Jens, according to you, I already know what you're gonna say, so I don't even have to ask you because I know your answer. Puff's No Way Out, compilation or Puff out? Because he rhymed on every track almost. But I know Jens, Puffy's known as a producer, so I know you're gonna say compilation. Jake,
absolutely.
No Way Out, is that a Puffy album?
It's, you know what, I feel like it's a compilation because it was Puffy and the
Hitman or something.
In the family.
Yeah, Puff and the
so
family.
that was like a compilation to me.
All right, compilation. Nick, compilation.
Yeah, compilation. Bad Boy comp.
Porsche.
Puff solo joint.
Oh, okay. Well, we gonna just hit Porsche is coming out cutting everything. You think you out there?
It's you can like. Here's the thing. It's accepted as a Puffy joint. It's not who's the family. Who's taking credit? Who's the family that's taking credit for?
Well, they're all on the cover with him. Like
okay, so
who got the Grammy Award? Who was at the Grammys performing? Was the family performing?
Well, it's not. It's where is it listed under the family that No Way Out is also their album? That's the thing. Like, who in the family has No Way Out as one of their solo studio joints?
I'm just saying, when that nigga was doing that missing song with the choir and Faith, I ain't seen none of them, the family on stage with them niggas then.
Well, no, not that one song, but
like I can see that
I'm just joking because Porsche just threw out the 2 of spades and just cut you. Ace, like Ace was about to ride.
It's called Puff Daddy and the Family.
Yeah, it can be called Puff Daddy and the Family. It can be called Raekwon co-starring Ghost. But these are widely accepted as their solo joints. It's a solo Puff joint.
All right, Nick, to end this on your note, the Speaker Box Love Below, is that an Outkast album or 2 solo albums? JP?
That's 2 solo albums.
All right, Nick?
Yeah, 2 solo. They can market it how they want.
That's
2 solo albums. How many songs do they have together on there since it's an Outkast album?
Right.
What Big was on Roses, I think? That was it?
And then Big, and I think Dre might have been on One Cut. The one that had the
Patty LaBelle.
Great Feeling Good. Yeah, that joint.
That's
it.
All right. Porsche, what you got? Outkast.
Double album.
It's an Outkast double album?
It's an Outkast double album.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, yes, let's get you in. I got to start throwing the Porsche last on show.
Porsche got to explain that one. How is that? Come on.
Okay, it was solo albums. No, solo albums do not come together, right?
Yes, they do.
They don't come attached together, as far as I know.
Yes, they do.
Well, they do. Solo albums come attached together with another joint.
I can make an album. You can make an album. We can just put it together and sell it.
Okay, so you're telling me Only Built for Cuban Links, Tikal, Iron Man, and Liquid Swords all came attached together.
Yeah, they
in
wanted
one
to
big little case this big, all stuck together, and we had to flip through these dividers to get
it'd
the
still be
disc.
solo albums.
No, those are solo joints.
They could have put Only Built for Cuban Links and Iron Man together, right, as a solo album, as a double LP, right?
They could have, but they didn't.
And it'll still be two solo albums.
Outkast could have put them separate and sold them separate, but they were released together, released at the exact same millisecond of the day that they were released, and they were bought together.
And
so to me, that's a double joint.
And how many songs they have together on that?
It doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because you know what? To me, that's Outkast's genius way. Genius, yes, I'm using the word. Genius way of releasing that double. They came out, it's innovative. Nobody before them had ever done it, and they did it. And guess what? We're still talking about it, whether it's a double or solo joints. They did something right.
All right.
They released it together because they know solo. How has Big Boy's solo career, as far as commercial success, how has his solo career been?
I honestly, I don't put much value on commercial solo success. To me, I think Outkast's quality is amazing. I think if they did release it separately, people would have loved it. I think maybe
people would
monetarily they would have made.
I don't.
When it went diamond,
I don't think it sells 10 million copies, Grammy of the Year, and all those things. You know, because I believe that this Big Boy album is better than Speakerbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, easily, and I know so many people who've never even heard this album.
So who should stuff?
You know,
I just tweeted about that album. Actually, people love that album.
I told you, I give it 5 mics. Personally, I don't think anybody else probably would, but I think it's a dope album. And I think.
So when you talk about Speakerbox Love Below, do you talk about it as separate joints, or do you say Speakerbox Love Below? What is the verbiage that you're using?
What is the album that I play the most? The Andre?
No, not the album that you play the most. When someone tells you, "Oh, name all the Outkast joints that have come out."
Oh,
I stopped with Stankonia. I stopped with Stankonia personally.
Yeah, I always say that. I've like from day one, I've said that's not a true Outkast album.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, to me, it's a double album. I'll always consider it as such.
And I don't even consider Idlewild an Outkast album. And
it's a soundtrack.
Yeah. Right. So, but yes, what you think? Love Below, is that Outkast or a double solo album?
It's 2 solo albums. Well marketed, well thought out. 2 solo albums.
They wasn't really rocking with each other then. That's probably why it was made that way.
Yeah, that was like, because a lot of people thought that would be the last project they did.
Right.
Like, because Idlewild came like years later. Right. That was like a contract fulfillment type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was reading the XXL article. At one point, they had two different tour buses. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I've seen 3000 talk about, like, even apologize, like, yo, I cost Big Boy a lot of money. Like,
right. Yeah, I've heard about that too. Yes.
Not wanting to tour and not wanting to do stuff. I heard when what was it? So Fresh, So Clean came out. I think a detergent wanted to use that, and 3000 like, I don't use that detergent, and he done called, I think they wanted to do a milk ad, and he was like, I don't drink milk. So I mean, like, it's one of them things, like, just touring alone, like, all the money that he's cost Big Boy. But on that Big Boy note, I think it's real dope. Yesterday they posted he went out and brought the original Dungeon.
I saw that.
About Rico Mama House. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real dope. Wonder how Rico feel about that. But like, I don't know. Maybe Rico.
Hopefully he gifted to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, big. They got bread. They ended up being monetarily well off more than the other cats.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah. You may expect him to give it to Rico.
I would hope so. Gift it to them. Yeah. That
would be. We shall see. I don't know. Big Boy was saying we playing Big Boy Monopoly out here. That don't sound like I'm buying this hotel. But
because like me personally, like, if all of us came up creating the music together, and I know we broke bread and slept in your mama. That's your mom's house.
Right.
You're making tracks in the basement, and I blow up like monetarily more than the rest of the crew, and I can do that. Like, yo, bruh, here the house. Let's fix it up. Get the studio right. This you.
Right. No, I mean that would be dope. I just know that Matter of fact, I want to watch that again. That organized documentary on Netflix. It seemed like there was some tension in there. You know what I mean? So, you know,
they kind of phased them cats out towards the end.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't. What do you think about that, Nick?
Like I get where Rico was coming from, but I also get what Cass is like. Yo, we want to craft classic music on our own. Mm-hmm. So like even on ATLiens, you can kind of see them moving their own direction.
Yeah.
And then by the time Equipment came, Organized Noise might have had 4 songs on there.
Yeah.
Then by the time you get to Stankonia, I think they just had 1 track.
Mm-hmm.
So I get them trying to create classics on their own, but if that's the fam, like no matter how big I got, you my boy, I started with you, I'm like, I'm gonna always have a slot on my album for Kill. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just me personally.
Right.
I feel like Nas should be that way with Large Professor. Like Large Professor should, no matter who you working with, he should always have a slot on your album.
Yeah, yeah. Now I feel you. I remember when I first heard the joint. What was that joint with Large is on the chorus? No ID did the beat, but Large is on the chorus.
On the chorus, yeah.
And I was like, I heard it. I was like, oh, bet this Large Professor. And then I'm like, damn, no ID. Like, damn, my nigga, like,
yeah, man.
And then I felt Rico's point of view because so many times a lot of the MCs blow up. And by the time we get the Speaker Box Love Below going diamond, which is some nice royalty checks, nobody's checking for Organized Noise.
Exactly.
Right.
Could have put some nice money in their pocket. You know?
Exactly.
Same with Nas. Like, getting a Large Pro track on the Nas album right now could help put somebody through college. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely feel you. And it's one of those things where I just wonder, why doesn't that happen? Like, is it beef? I know with Calm, on one of his albums, he spoke about he felt bad and he like had to apologize for No ID for basically abandoning that nigga. Because it was like he got with the Roots and like for Water for Chocolate wasn't no ID, B no ID. Like he just like, and he even spoke on it like, you know, I should have been putting him on or whatever like that. So,
yeah, he went like a whole decade without working with him.
Right. You know, which is kind of fucked up, but it is what it is. JP, give them all the info, man. Tell them where they can get all these albums and projects at and everything.
You can reach me on Instagram, on Twitter, JPaz Music, JPAZ Music. I got a couple albums out, If I May, and no matter the weather on iTunes, all the streaming services, Tidal, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, Nick. Give him everything, good brother.
Portia rocking that lace, bro. We chilling.
I'm not rocking lace.
We good.
Just so everyone's clear, I am not rocking lace.
Good.
This is nowhere is this lace. I'm not rocking lace.
Portia rocking that lace.
Nick is a fool.
Crazy.
Nick got Porsche on her Apollonia. This dude said lace on.
That lace.
Or some sex shoes. Like,
I do not have lace on.
Porsche men a top that in a minute. Porsche, give them all the info.
Kill will post it. I'm not giving info. That's fine.
Yeah, give him everything, good brother.
You know how I do it. I'm just glad to be on with y'all. Glad to meet you, JP.
Yes, sir.
Meeting you, so that's what I'm all about. Bigging y'all all up. Glad to be on.
All right, no doubt. Y'all already know who it is with me. Kill 889, Twitter, and IG. We'll make beats for food. Porsche on the Apollonia joint, man. This
got that glow over there, that light hitting the face all.
Nick.
Now I got to watch Porsche jump on back of the motorcycle with Prince and everything. All right, y'all. I'll check y'all next week, man.
All right.